everybody, and welcome to another episode of What with Rep Ash. That's Well, How About That? I'm Brian Ash. This is our second episode of 2021. We're still doing them via Zoom, as you can see. But I'm happy to have a guest here today, somebody I've known for a long time, family friend, Sam Fortsch, who has started out his own book series. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So first, Sam, thanks so much for being here and welcome.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me, Brian.
Is it everything you thought it would be and then some?
It's
This
blowing
is
it
big
out
time.
of the water.
This is big time.
I turned down Anderson Cooper for this, so I'm pretty excited.
Smart move. First, just for the people watching, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you grew up, and you grew up in town here, a little bit about who you are and your background.
Sure. So, yeah, like Brian said, Sam Fortsch, grew up right here in Long Meadow, went to Long Meadow High School, graduated the class of 2006. From there, I signed a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship with the University of Massachusetts Amherst. After my time there, I I commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. Went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, did some training there, which lasted about 6 months. After that, I was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is on the border of, it's in Kentucky, but right on the border of Tennessee. It's about an hour away from Nashville, Tennessee. And from Fort Campbell, I deployed twice to Afghanistan. And after my time in the Army, I decided to move back to my hometown, Long Meadow, and raise a family with my wife, Julia. And we now have 3 kids, Samuel, William, and Madeline.
Excellent. And thank you for your service, Sam. I really appreciate that too. Now we're going to talk about the book series. Well, did you write, like as a kid, did you write it all in high school, college? Was it ever a passion to you, or is this something that came up later in life?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, maybe it didn't, get focused in on writing until later, but I would say from a very young age, whether it was drawing, doodling, coloring, etc., I always had a yearning to create, whether that was making people smile through, terrible drawings when I look back on them now, or, just spending some time by myself and, letting my, brain come up with whatever was, rambling around up there. After that, I really decided to, I love making movies as a kid, pretending I was either the director or, starring in a espionage thriller, robbing a bank, riding a horse, saving the damsel in distress, etc. And writing as an actual serious, part of my life came later on, but I'd say, yeah, from a very young age, I always was very interested in creating.
Well, how did you get into the series called Portrait Dogs? How did you come up with the name? Obviously, Portrait, and what made you want to write a story about a dog? Was there a personal history with that? And kind of give a little, how you got into the whole series and the concept.
Yeah, so it all really started, I started writing screenplays for movies, had a bunch of different ideas, put my mind to it, and actually, my goal at the time was just to finish what I started, whether the movie was, crazy, way too fantastical, would have cost, more than Titanic 7 times over. I just wanted to start and finish something. And then after that, after sending it to, friends and family and begging them to read it and give me feedback, I was told that, one of these ideas would be great for a children's book. So I took the concept, did all the illustrations myself, wrote the, the dialogue, etc., and got that in the hands of somebody at Penguin Random House who took the idea, ran it up the ladder. I really had no idea that I just assume that everybody, does this, and there's probably a million rejections before there's a green light given, and
Right.
they really like the idea, they like the concept behind it, and then the next thing we got Portrait Dogs, and it went from one, my idea of being a picture book to a chapter
Right.
book, and then it went from one chapter book to four, all on the same tight timeline to get them done. So it really just followed the passion, threw it out there, and
When did you start writing the Portrait Dogs series?
I'd say I started the journey, outlining the characters, diving into the themes and the morals that I wanted to convey, probably about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And then after polishing, fine tuning, and actually signing the contract with Penguin Random House, that was summer of 2019.
Why don't you tell people a little bit what Portrait Dogs are all about? Characters, how a little bit more about, without giving away, the story.
Yeah.
You want to buy the book, obviously.
Spoiler alert, everybody.
Yeah.
So all the books follow our main character. His name is Sergeant Rico Ricochet. And he's not based off of any dog in particular, although in my time in service, I had the privilege of, meeting a bunch of military working dogs, seeing their handlers and how impressive and how brave not only the handlers were, but the dogs themselves. And for a long time, I had wondered how I would convey what my time in the Army was like to my kids, and that really shaped my motivation as to why I wanted to make it relatable for kids. And so taking it from the picture book and then turning it into these chapter books really allowed me to expand, gave me more space to kind of give you the backstory on these characters, and explain all the morals. I mean, I think it's targeted to second to fourth graders.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that this is a great book for young readers who maybe can't read on their own, to have their parents or a loved one or a teacher sit down and read it to them, because the morals in it, I think, are really important. It talks about working as a team. It talks about because our main character Rico here, he loses his front leg during his time in service, and after he gets out of the Army, he really doesn't feel a sense of purpose anymore. He's vexed, he's confused, he's sad, all of these different feelings and emotions that everybody has on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. And the books really dive into how not only do you need to believe in yourself, but it's also very important to have a circle of either friends or family or
Right.
a coach or a teacher to kind of lift you up and show that just because you're different than you were, or you don't feel like you can do the same things, that there's different ways to show your sense of purpose in this world.
Right. That's a great message to be put out there. Now, did you draw from a lot of your military experiences when you were writing, so you knew what it was like? So did you use it from that angle, that I was in Afghanistan a couple of times, I understand, being in these situations?
Well, I think, it's more drawing on the camaraderie aspect of being in the Army. In book 3, Portrait Dogs, book 3, Into the Storm, they end up on an island in the Caribbean, and they're fighting swashbuckling dog pirates and dog cats. So obviously wasn't doing any of that when I was in the Army, but
that's good to know.
Yeah, it's good to know for all the kids out there.
Yeah.
So it's really the Army really teaches you a lot of valuable life lessons that are still with me today. And I'd say that every soldier I know still carries those values with them. And that's really what conveyed in these books, a fun way to bolster, the feeling of helping others when they need help, or
Right.
working together as a team, using different team members and playing to their strengths and helping them when their weaknesses come out.
Now, I was saying when you talked about Ricochet and losing a leg, it did you draw that from anybody you know, military or a vet that lost a limb, or do you know any military vets? And I'm just wondering if
Sure.
you talked to any vets that have lost a limb or lost something while they were in service, and you've talked to them about the book and what you're doing, and maybe get ideas from them or see what they think of it.
Well, I'm actually, so a lot of the characters, they're really like a combination of a bunch of different soldiers and, officers and non-commissioned officers that I had the privilege of serving with. Um, I would say that I've had some conversations with, people who are currently running nonprofit organizations that, help soldiers who now have either lost, limbs or have a hard time getting around the house. Also, organizations that help families who have lost loved ones during service. Um, and, in talking to them, I spoke to one head of an organization who said that, these books, she really wants to get them out there because there is a good message behind what is geared towards a younger audience. And I think it's, I think there's a lot of important values in there, and,
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my service. And, every time I see a soldier, I obviously, thank him or her for their continued service, or, seeing a veteran. And I think, obviously America now has done a very good job, in my opinion, of rallying behind troops.
Mhm.
In wars past, like the Vietnam War, I mean, soldiers faced a completely different experience. I don't know how I personally would have been able to handle hardships, and not being welcomed home with such open arms. So we're in a different time, a different environment now, and I think that these books do a good job, honoring past and present members of the armed forces.
Well, that's one of the things I liked about it too, is that, obviously, like you said, it's geared towards second to fourth graders, the younger audiences. One, it can introduce them to these characters and give them some great values, some great lessons, but also in an indirect way, teach them a little bit about the military and what it's all about without showing some of the more horrific parts of it. But I think it's also something for adults, as you mentioned earlier, because there are, as you know, a lot of vets who come home that either have physical or mental health
Sure.
damages that they're trying to recover for, or trying, as you mentioned earlier, trying to find their purpose. And so, like your books, I think that's what's really intrigued me about it, that it's a wonderful children's book series with some great values and messages, but it really can go out much more than that, and touch a lot of more people's lives. And at the very least, educate people that there's so much more than just your military, and people go away and they come back, and they're all type of things. And these values are something that's important, should be important to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a sad part of a country being at war for as long as we've been at war. I mean, if you look at our history, I mean, we've been
Right.
almost in a constant state of conflict for since our inception, and obviously our inception as a nation was based on a war as well. And I struggled with it myself. As when I got out of the Army, I got a job and started a family, things that I'm very proud of. But the 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 drive, the constant camaraderie, the goal-orientated focus of being in the Army, and having a team that can pick you up when you're down, and you get that feeling of satisfaction when that you have soldiers that are slacking a little or down a little and being able to help them. So when I got out missing all of that, it was really hard for me to channel some of that energy that I had, and pouring myself into creating portrait dogs really helped me. I mean, it was, not to be cliche or cheesy, but it was very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
Just write, obviously it's not, none of these books are, based on true stories. Like I said, book 3, Swashbuckling Pirates, book 2, there's a mutant spider. Book 4, there's a robot squirrel that shoots, 8,000 acorns a minute. Obviously, none of that. It's all,
Nobody would believe 8,000 acorns.
yeah, I mean, maybe
5,000.
6,000. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's been a ton of fun, and at a bare minimum, I feel that, I accomplished something, whether, they sell, 5 copies or 5 billion. I'll be able to show my kids these, and I really hope that, more kids read them. I hope that parents pick them up and say, hey, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to read something that is fun. It conveys a, good moral message. It conveys, you don't pick on people, you don't bully people. And if you are getting bullied or you see somebody getting bullied, you got a team to back you up. And there's a lot of time in my life that, and I know a lot of people can relate, that, you kind of feel like you're alone. And these books are about what you do when you do feel alone. You got to search within you, and hopefully you have a strong community around you, whether that's friends, families, teachers, coaches, to kind of pick you up and inspire you to be your best self, even when it's difficult. And I think that's actually the most important part about these books, is that it's not easy.
Right.
It can be very difficult. And the journey and the missions that the Patriots go on, they face a lot of adversity. The missions are filled with peril. They're filled with challenges. And, at the end of the day, the team works together to accomplish a collective goal.
And again, that's kind of what I like too about, even though maybe they're fabricated and unrealistic issues, at the end of the day, the conflict is, as you mentioned, something everybody deals with, and it gives great messages for the young audience, to things to live by. Since you started writing these, obviously, the last year, we've been limited on social exposure. What have you done to get the books out there? Like book readings? Were you doing that previously? Have you done anything online, or book signings, or how does all that work for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I got the contract, obviously the pandemic had not hit. When the first books, because the first 2 books released in September of 2020, books 3 and 4 released in October of 2020. So again, it was all exciting. Had all of these different, actual physical engagements lined up, where you'd get to hopefully meet some young fans and their parents and their families, etc. That's changed. Obviously, it's not, the ideal theoretically climate for getting books out there. All things in perspective, things could obviously be a lot worse. But on the flip side, what the pandemic has done is, maybe opened up some more time for families or for kids who are looking for, something to sink their teeth into, something to read. There's pictures in these books as well, about 20 pictures per book. So for kids who don't even like to read, for instance, my son Samuel, who's turning 6 in March, not a highly proficient reader yet, but what he does like to do is grab these books and look at all the cool pictures. So, there's 2 sides to every coin, and on one side, we haven't been able to do the in-person engagements, but yeah, I've done a few online readings. I actually had the privilege of talking about these books to some 3rd and 4th graders out of West Springfield public school system. That was awesome. I think there was probably about 50 kids in the 35 kids in the third grade class, and then about 50 to 60 in the fourth grade class. And if the teachers are listening, I'm sorry if I got the numbers wrong, but and at the end we did a Q&A, and the kids just asked some of the best questions.
Yeah.
Questions that I hadn't even thought about, answering before. And it's, it made me think, and it really, kept me on my toes and on the edge of my seat. And I think they were excited. They all got a copy of book one, which was, done through a donation effort to the third and fourth grade of the West Springfield school. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Knowing that these kids, got a book, and a lot of them seemed like they were, excited about it. And that was really cool.
Well, just getting him to read, getting him engaged,
Right.
that in itself is a good thing. And then, as we mentioned, the positive message and the story that you have there, I think is great. I mean, I think it'd be whether it's now via Zoom, reading to kids, I think that'd be a great opportunity for, teachers to have a guest reader via Zoom come in and read a story and introduce a different book that I'm sure a lot of them haven't seen or haven't read yet, and hopefully that'll open the doors. And when you're that age, it's always good to get different ideas and different things, and hopefully so the kids stay excited about it.
Yeah, I think, and sorry to cut you off.
No.
On that note, they're entertaining books, but on, like we said, we already talked about the morals and the messaging. In each book, there's Army jargon, and it's explained. One of my favorite Army terms is "hua," which means like "let's go, let's get after it." And all of the different words and Army jargon that Rico uses, because all the books are told through Rico's perspective. So it's told through his eyes. It gives the readers a chance to, learn something, not only the morals and the messaging, but also these fun Army jargon that, unless they're from a military family, probably wouldn't know. And then, book 4, On the Freedom Trail, is set in Boston, Massachusetts, and it ties into the length of the Freedom Trail, so the Bunker Hill, etc. Kind of some historical
that's great
in there as well. So there's some fun. There's also some learning, which is always good. And yeah.
Well, obviously, like you said, that's the best combination. You want to entertain them so they stay with it, engaged, but they can get a positive message at the end. Obviously, that's ideal situation. We look at the books. Now you've got 4 down. Any ideas for more books in this series? And then from there, have you thought about, boy, I'd like to do a different thing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my mind is constantly filling up with random ideas, to the point where I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I keep my notebook, pen and paper on my nightstand, and I'll jot down an idea. In this book series, I have the outlines and the rough, rough outlines, I'd call them, for books 5 and 6. So again, continuing the Patriot Dog series.
Yeah.
Outside of the Patriot Dog series, even though that's my main focus right now, I've got a ton of different ideas. Getting away from the whole military vibe and kind of even more fantastical. And if you read, all 4 of the books.
Great word, by the way, fantastical.
Yeah, is that an accurate word? Am I making it up?
Sure.
Okay, fine. Well, anyways, I'm not even sure. I'm going to look it up after this interview. But, but circling back to Patriot Dogs, because that's my main focus right now. Yes, I do have more books planned. Hopefully, God willing, I'd get the opportunity to keep the series going. I think it's an important one, and I think it's something worth getting out there.
I like even the fact that we mentioned earlier about the glossary, how the military terms that you explain to these kids, which I think is good, because I remember as a kid or even as an adult watching a movie that might be around, either war or something to do with the military, and not knowing what they're talking about, or not knowing certain lingo, certain jargon. So it is good at an early age, so they at least have a basic understanding. If it's just for the book series, that's good, or in other parts of life, or if any of them entertain a military career or service somewhere down the line. I think those are I like that you have a lot of these little things tucked in there that in themselves are good, but collectively they make a great story and a great book and a great series, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if you get some of the Army jargon and, yeah, it'll be great because then if you're watching a movie, you'd be like, oh, I know that term. You can use, there's some jargon in there that you could use in your everyday life. One of my favorite ones is pop smoke, and it means we got to get out of here. And,
That's how I end my show.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I end every before the pandemic hit. When we were out to dinner with the family, I'm like, all right, let's pop smoke. We got to go.
That's good to know. I just learned something there too.
There you go.
Now, Sam, so you got the book deal going well. Obviously, when we get out of the pandemic, hopefully even more exposure and get out and do book signings and meet some of the readers, which I'm sure that would be the best part of it for you, getting to actually meet the kids who want to read your books. Any other deals, any other things in the works, any other, creations or creativity that you've been working on, or have you been approached by anybody else?
Yeah. So in regards to Portrait Dogs, I have been approached by some entertainment producers out of Hollywood, and they are, I actually just very recently signed an agreement for these producers to go out and be able to shop, is what they call it, the series to be made into an animated television series. It's obviously, it's exciting. I told myself, when I got the book deal, I was going to keep everything in check and not get too excited. And now they're out and I'm still keeping myself in check.
Your head still fits in the screen here, so you're good.
Yes, and I've always had a rather large head, but so thanks for that. But it'd be great. I think it fits, beautifully for an animated series. I think there's a lot of dynamics to the story. I think there's a lot of dynamics to the characters. I think it would be fun to see these books come to life. So again, that's, for every producer that's out there shopping, content like Portrait Dogs, there's a million of them that get shut down. So,
well, just like the book series, there's a million people putting in for those, but they obviously saw something in the way you wrote the message and the way you put the stories together. So, and if these people saw the same thing, whether or not it works, I think that's such a compliment to your work that they recognize it and then were even interested. That shows the character, the stories, and that this isn't just something you threw together, scratch real quick. There's a lot of thought and effort into it, and people appreciate it. And the professionals who understand these things have seen that. So, kudos to you for that. I hope it works. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and when I spoke to them, they. It's not like I didn't reach out to them. They actually stumbled upon the books in Los Angeles, which was really cool. Kind of, took my breath away. They read the books and everything that you and I have been talking about from the, the moral messaging, et cetera, it really resonated with them. One of them, actually both of them, I think, but one of them's a dog owner, a huge dog fan. So not only did she love the dog aspect, but I think, not to use this word for the 90th time, but the fantastical elements of the series. I'm gonna Google it.
When it's not a word, then people are gonna really judge.
Without a doubt. Yeah. So they're excited about it. They really believe in the series, and I think with that, passion and the belief in the series itself, that they're going to be able to do a good job trying to get this thing done, because if you believe in a project, it makes getting the project done a whole lot easier.
Yeah. So now, if something like that, did they even go into details what that would mean to you, more writing, or do they take the book series you have and try to incorporate that at least to the beginning stages of a series?
Yeah. So if theoretically, if a deal ever did get made, and this is obviously different if I was J.K. Rowling, I could tell them, listen,
I thought that's why I booked. You're not.
Almost. Give me 25 to 38 more years, and
All right.
maybe we'll be there. But what it would be for me is it would be the books getting turned into a show and getting out there. I would ideally, have some creative input, but the way
Yeah.
Hollywood works and TV and film, as I understand it as a layperson, is, they hire their own writers, they hire their own showrunner who kind of quarterbacks the entire execution phase of getting the show onto the screens. So I don't think I would be doing any more writing in that aspect, but ideally be involved in the creative process. If it did get made, God willing, I think, we'd be talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, book 9, book 10, book 12.
Yeah.
I know I missed 11, but
Sorry.
so that's,
This is reading.
yeah. Well, so that would be the upside, is that it would probably allow for more books in the series, because I've really enjoyed writing them. I mean, I have a day job. So, get done with the day job, come home, spend time with, my wife and my 3 kids, and, eat dinner, play, do bath time, do story time, put them to bed. And then with all of that energy that I had left in the tank, I would spend my time, thank you to my wife for, making it easier, but
Right.
spend my time writing. And it was a really good outlet for me.
Well, I'm sure it was, especially in these times. I'm sure it was cathartic for you to be able to do that, and with less socialization now, so you need an outlet, as you mentioned earlier, even in the concepts of the books. So when we're out of all this, right now, actually, how do people? So say some kids are watching, or parents watching, how would they get one of the books or any of the books in the series?
So it's available in anywhere a book is sold, so any brick and mortar, and then online as well. First of all, I always like to say that, support your local bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
They're not only getting squeezed by, they're getting squeezed in every which way, et cetera, et cetera. So support your local bookstores. If someone's watching this, I implore you to go to your local bookstore and if you don't get pot your dogs, get a book.
Right.
Obviously, within reason and safety and all that stuff. But you can get it online as well, if that's an easier and safer and more comfortable way for you to do it. It's really available anywhere. I mean, that's the benefit of being, having the backing of Penguin Random House is,
right.
They're major, and they get their books sold everywhere. So practically anywhere.
That's awesome, and that's great that it's that readily available. Now, online, as you say, you can purchase the book.
Sure.
Is it available online as like reading online, or is it just a hard copy of the book?
Yes, there are. There's the Kindle version or the ebook version.
And how many pages about per book?
So each book is 96 pages. And like I said, I got to show off the interior illustration.
Yeah, why don't you show a couple of books up close so people can see them?
Yeah, I mean, the covers, here's book 1, your standard red, white, and blue. Book 2, a little different color scheme because it's in Texas. Book 2's everything's bigger in Texas. Book 3, a more tropical vibe.
That's on the island. Yeah.
On the island with the pirates. And then book 4, we got Boston in the background.
I love that.
So the covers were done by an exceptionally, I look at these and almost believe that the characters I'm seeing on the covers are actually real. So Bob Kajanovich, I'm so mad I haven't spoken to him on the phone. And if he hears this, he'll probably be offended at the way I just butchered his last name. My apologies. And then the interior illustrations were done by Manuel Gutierrez, who actually lives in Peru, and he's totally gifted. He's an amazing artist.
So did the publisher set up the somebody do the cover and the illustration, or did you have anything to do with that?
That was all Penguin Random House. What Penguin had me do from an art standpoint was pick the spots where I thought an illustration would be best.
Yeah.
And then convey I don't like to tell anybody how to do their job, especially
Yeah.
an artist who's very good at creating art. So just kind of convey the emotion and the scenery, and which is theoretically done by the text in the book as well. But the
Yeah.
author, I found very, warm to my advice and we've actually developed a nice relationship. We found each other on social media.
Oh,
We
great.
messaged back and forth. So that's been really cool. But let me show you one of my favorites. Let me see. So many to choose from. Let's see. But he's awesome. Manuel Gutierrez.
Yeah.
I'm not mispronouncing his last name.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, I know. So the cover artist is going to be a little miffed, but we'll get over
And
it.
I'm sure he watches this show too.
Yes, he probably does. I'm actually going to call him right after this and tell him to log on. So I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. It almost looks like a photograph. Did a great job. Obviously, very detailed oriented. Really sets the tone. And I have copies of the books, and I really enjoy the cover. I think pulls you in right away because it's vibrant. You see Ricochet right up front there, kind of draws you in, so you're interested. Then you go inside, and obviously it's a long enough book where it takes a little while, but it's not too long where a child
96 pages, if I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did, and I think that's good.
Okay.
So it's you can take a while reading it, but it's not so long where people are going to get bored with it, or a child will get bored with it. And the illustrations, I think, help pull the story along as well. Which, as you know, for a kid, well, even for a grown up, it's nice to have the pictures help tell the story as well as the words. And I think for the stories you're telling, pictures are so important because you want somebody who's never seen anything like that to at least get a description, a better descriptive of what you're trying to tell them. So
right, and it's fun. It made it. I really think it brings the entire series together. I think without the illustrations, it would have been okay. I think with the illustrations, it just really knocks it out of the park. I think it's a home run.
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled for you personally. Personally, I think that's great, and really happy for kids or anybody who gets to buy the book that they can get entertained for one, but really learn some valuable messages. And I think that's so important now too. Just, you have value based, but it's still entertaining. It's not, and I think that's what makes it extra special. You're reading it for fun, but you get something out of it as well, which you can never go wrong with that. Anything else anybody watching should know about, or about the book series?
No, I mean, I think we covered all of it. The series is Patriot Dogs. There's 4 of them. You can get them anywhere books are sold, online or brick and mortar. Patriot, Pawtriot. I know I spelled that right.
You did.
Yeah. So
DOGS.
Yeah, DOGS.
I went to college. Sam, I do have a tough question for you. Sam Fortsch. Shouldn't it be Fortsch?
It probably should be a lot of things. It's got a few too many consonants, but I love the name.
We'll have a whole other show just about that. And a new fun fact for people watching, Sam used to throw a heck of a wiffle ball tournament in his backyard some years ago that my children, when they were little, used to play in. So you were a creative force when you were in high school, when I first got to know you when you were a kid. And seriously, that was a good thing because you brought kids in from all over to have fun. It was for nothing else, just to entertain people, to have fun. So I've obviously seen that entertaining side, but your military side, I'm very impressed with, being a captain and just dedicating part of your life to service for our country. That alone speaks volumes of who you are and your character. But then to take all that, to take your inner entertainment side, your creativity, as well as your military background, and be able to put that into words to entertain, to help, and to educate and send a positive message to kids. I'm just extremely impressed, and I was glad you had the time for my show. I know as soon as you sell 5 billion books, or you get your your TV series, then I'll have to pay a hefty fee to get you on.
You're going to be my first stop.
All right.
And I'll never forget.
And I have an autographed copy, so I'm good to go. So I appreciate it. But again, Sam, thanks so much for spending a little time here talking about Patriot Dogs. I think it's awesome. I can't wait to see what happens from here, whether it's the next books, whether it's a series or books. If you check them out, go online, and maybe some of the teachers who might watch would love to have Sam read to them via Zoom now or next year in person. I know we do a great job, and I think the kids would be entertained as well. So with that, I'm going to let you give her out. What do you say?
Pop smoke.
There you go. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Great show. Hopefully people learned a little something, and we'll go out and check out the Patriot Dog series. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you.